introduction thing again. You got that yesterday. But I do still have 5 brains left. Hi, folks. So this talk is the Agile Mindset, and it's a relatively introductory talk on the Agile Mindset. And Renee's already giving me a filthy look because of that. We might drag her up and make her expand on some of the newer theories. But what is this agile thing? I sometimes get quite frustrated because we talk about agile as if it is a noun, a thing. But it's not. Agile is an adjective. It changes something else. In the context that we largely see it and hear about it at the moment, it's changing software development. So if we think of, and we'll see, the manifesto for Agile software development, it's about changing the way we do software development. But it doesn't need to be restricted to that. It's about changing the way we do maybe people engagement in organizations, talent engagement, human resources. No, it's just wrong term. People are not resources. A resource is something that is consumed in the production of a product. And we hope that our organizations don't treat us like that. There's another one that we sometimes hear when we think about human resources is people are our biggest asset. Yeah, no, assets can be sold. Slavery has been abolished. Yeah, no. So, being agile, not doing agile, but being agile in the way, in when we do other things. So that agile software development, agile people engagement, agile marketing, agile finance, agile analysis, agile testing. But what is agile, or in the context here, agility, actually mean? When you think of being agile. Yeah, I don't do rhetorical questions.
Being flexible.
Being flexible. Being fast. Whoa! Being adaptive. So these are all valuable terms, but what does it mean for us in the organization? Why would we care about this agile stuff in our working environments?
Yeah. Our work are going faster. Change are faster.
Okay, technology is happening, change is happening fast, so what, we need to keep up, but why can't we just ignore it and let it go on without us? Competition, business environment. It makes our work more efficient. Okay, so we're better at doing the wrong thing? So, how many of you have seen Shuha Ree before? Couple have.
See, yeah.
So the concept, it comes from one of the martial arts, and I can never remember which, and it was an idea that Alistair Cockburn first spoke about. And he was one of the authors of the Agile Manifesto. In fact, he was one of the organizers of the event for the Agile Manifesto. And the idea is that there is a pathway to competency, to mastery, in any of the things that we do. At the level of Shu, we are learners. We're apprentices, perhaps. We're trying to understand, and we need guidance. We need a lot of guidance. We need to follow a set of rules. But as we build competency, build experience, we move out of the shoe box, so to speak, into the level of Ha. At Ha, we are the journeyman. We're able to understand why the rules exist and know when to break the rules. And ultimately, when we attain a state of mastery in our profession or an area of work, we're at the level of Re. And at that level, what you see is a completely different set of behaviors. It's not that the rules have gone away. It's that the rules are so well ingrained that we work to the spirit and to the principle. So if we think of it, shoe. You arrive in a strange city, you hire a car, and you put in the address of the airport. I will follow the GPS instructions. I'm not going to deviate from the path. I do not understand the environment, and I will simply follow that path. And even if it sends me via a longer road because Siri got confused, doesn't really matter. I will follow the rule. But then, maybe I've been to the city now, I've been in the city 3 or 4 weeks, beginning to understand, I know a little bit of the traffic patterns. So when I see that the GPS is telling me go there, but I know that there's actually a slightly shorter route, I will break the rule. I'll follow my own understanding because I've learned a little bit. And then we have the level of knowledge that is at the mastery level, the unconscious total competence. This is driving from home to the office. How many times do you get in a car and you don't actually realize what route you've taken? You get home and the last hour, or if it's in Jakarta, the last 6 hours, is lost. Because you've been able to concentrate on other things and you've been listening to ebooks, or you've been having conversations with the person in the car with you, and you've just been changing direction as you go and adapting to the traffic circumstance. So that's Shuhari for driving in a town. We have Shuhari for writing code if you're a programmer. You have Shuhari for building test cases if testing is your competency. So Shuhari applies in any of the competency areas. Agile gives you a set of competency areas that you need to build Shuhari competency in as well. So we want to get to Re. It requires deliberate practice. Now, you might have heard the rule of 10,000 hours. It takes 10,000 hours practice to become an expert. It's actually been it's been quite thoroughly disproven. You can actually achieve an expert level competency with about 2,500 hours of deliberate practice. And that's the key to it. It is that deliberate, focused, mindful practice that enables us to move rapidly through Shuha to Re. If you're not focusing on it, 10,000 hours is necessary to build the muscle memory. But if you you focus, if you consider carefully, this is something that I want to achieve. I want to build that competency deliberately. The focused, considered practice enables us to get to that level. But I kind of touched on this one earlier. Why does this agile stuff matter? Why do we want? What are the problems that we're trying to solve by being agile in our organizations? The pace of change, the competitive landscape. What about the humanistic things? Relevance? From what point of view?
To maintain relevance and sustainability.
To maintain relevance and sustainability. Are the two linked? Maybe, maybe not. Yeah. To build our... So if we look at success and what is success, and this comes from the Standish Group surveys, and there's a reasonable amount of discussion as to their research methodology, but there's some trends that come out. And what we see is that as an industry, if we look at outcomes of IT projects in general, we suck. Between 9 and 29% of projects fail. If 1/3 of bridges collapse, what would we do to the bridge designers and builders? They would be held accountable. What happens when software projects fail? Gets swept under the carpet, we never examine it, and nobody worked on that project. You ask the people in the organization who worked, nobody was involved in that one. We spent $5 million, but it's gone. Maybe we fired the project manager. Yeah. Yeah. An important role on any project that needs to be appointed early is the scapegoat, the designated blamee. And it's better if they don't know that that's their role. We appoint them early, and then we set them up. We put them on a pedestal, and when we need them, we fire them. And we've got somebody who we can say, "Yep, project failed. We blame that person. It's gone."
And we find another one.
And yeah. There's another one there. This is a relatively straightforward role to fill. But what benefits do we get? And, this goes back to the 7th survey. I should update it. But what we are seeing, changing priorities, increased productivity, project visibility, team morale, software quality, risk reduction. So there's a reasonable amount of evidence that agile methodologies, agile adoption of agile practices have kind of helped in doing something, quote unquote, better. Problem is, we're often like this guy. We really efficiently solved the wrong problem. Really efficiently. The Deming quote, "There is nothing worse than doing well which should not be done at all." And how many times in our organizations do we really efficiently solve the wrong problem? And I'm afraid all of our agile doesn't fix that. It should. When we think about the intent, it should. Now, we know that there's a difference between knowledge work and task work today. And that the whole philosophy of Agile is about working in that knowledge workspace. Because I don't particularly want adaptive bridge building, thank you. Creative bridge design, probably. Where the cost of change is very high, where the understanding of both the problem and the solution is clear, then using an agile, adaptive, learning-based process doesn't make a lot of sense. But the reality, of course, is most of the value in today's economy is not in the task work space. It is in the knowledge work. It is in these domains where complexity is high, where learning is necessary, where the problem that we're trying to address is not even well articulated. And the way that we solve it requires learning and experimentation. And that's where Agile comes from. And that's where Agile flourishes, and it helps us be effective. So we need to understand the nature of the work that we are doing. How well is the outcome knowable? Is it based on human creativity, or could we give it to a robot? The lovely quote that was on the one of the slides from the keynote this morning. If you can define something well enough, then I can build a robot to do it. How do we coordinate the process? If we think of many of our project management methodologies, they're designed to tell people exactly what to do. Great coordination for something that we don't actually know what we're trying to achieve. But when we are building, I don't know, walls and bridges and roads, well, yes, I probably can use some of those techniques. One of the challenges is that historically we've taken the science of project management from that predictive construction style industry, and we've tried to apply it to knowledge work. And the birth of Agile was, in fact, a push against that type of thinking. Is the outcome knowable in advance? This is a manuscript from I can never remember which author it is. I apologize. Here's an acronym. ICKY-WEEZY, a lovely acronym. I don't know what I want. I will know it when I see it. Yeah. You know what? That's a perfectly legitimate requirements approach. Because most of our customers don't know what they want, but they do know what they don't want. And if we can show it to them, or even better, if they can experience it, we can figure it out. So don't just show me a picture. Let me use it. So how do we do that early? How do we do that quickly? Again, that's what some of the ideas of Agile are all about. So what is that? Okay. Something weird is going on my laptop. So this talk is titled The Agile Mindset. What is a mindset? Come on, I've got 2 brains left. What's a mindset?
Concept quite similar with skill set.
Similar to skill set. So, whoopsie.
Sorry,
Holding a phone and catching a brain at the same time is a skill set you don't have. Reasonable.
For me, mindset is attitude to convey something or to say something.
Attitude. An established set of attitudes and habits. No, it's yours. You now have a brain. An icy agile brain. It's blue. Turquoise. It's flexible, yes. You can squeeze it. So when we think of the concept of what is a mindset, and we put those words in there, an established set of attitudes and habits towards succeeding when there is uncertainty. If you think about it, when you face an uncertain environment, what is your natural response? Is it, okay, this is learning, this is good, I want to find out something new, or is it, I can't do this? And Carol Dweck wrote about the growth mindset or the fixed mindset. The fixed mindset, my skills, my capabilities are set at birth. Organizations have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset to their approach. We are good at this, and because we're really good at this, we will continue doing it, and we will ignore other things. Or we will learn. The growth mindset for an individual, when I'm faced with a challenge, what am I going to do? How do I respond? Is it, I want to look smart and I'll put up a veneer, or do I want to learn? And I'm prepared to admit that I don't know. And that learning is an opportunity to get better. Now, those of you who are parents, please go and find on the internet, there's one on YouTube and there's another one on InfoQ, a talk by Linda Rising where she talks about bright little girls and relates this to the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. Linda Rising, R-I-S-I-N-G, bright little girls. Please, if you are parents, particularly if you have daughters, watch that and think about how the language that we use when we talk to our children. It has a huge impact on creating that mindset. Because we start to build that mindset as young children. What happens when we face a challenge? Is it, yeah, you can do better, or that's it, that's your limit? And what we want in agile people and in agile organizations is fundamentally a growth mindset. We have to have those habits of learning to grow, to succeed. Managing uncertainty is an opportunity to learn, discovery, learning, experimentation, all of the things that we hear about in this agile language. We also think of it in terms of, you've heard of iterative and incremental growth. One of the concept of iterations preceded agile by a long, long time. We've done work in small increments. There's an example of linear thinking. There's no learning going on. We want to get to exactly there. And unfortunately, it's not showing very clearly with the projector, but that's actually got a picture of a woman holding her hand here. And the painter obviously changed their minds and moved it around, and then only do we come to the incremental. So iterative and incremental. And the growth mindset is very much about being able to learn to change and adapt. But it does require us to keep the cost of change low. And we know, certainly in the software engineering realm, how to do that today. The technical challenges related to keeping the cost of change low have been solved. There is no excuse for organizations today not to be using the good technical practices. If you are building software and you're not doing continuous integration and you're not doing test-driven development, then you are being negligent in your delivery of quality work. There is absolutely no excuse, but you need those sort of practices to be able to effectively respond and learn quickly. And those are the sorts of things that help us keep the cost of change low in our organizations. So the manifesto came about as a reaction against the fixed mindset in planning. That the perception that we could take the ideas from a project management predictive environment and apply them to the learning that is necessary in software engineering. And it didn't work. And through the 80s and 90s, there was a whole lot of evidence that it wasn't working. And today still we see in organizations that are trying to use that predictive fixed mindset approach to planning, to doing work, it doesn't work. We have to have that flexible mindset. And the manifesto, and I'm not going to go through the details of the manifesto, this should be engraved on your souls in letters of fire. If you hold yourself to be an agilist, this set of values and principles is the foundation. And when you think about it as a mindset, this drives a set of habits and attitudes. We value individuals and interactions. We value working software. We value collaboration. We value responding to change. These are the attitudes that need to become habits. And the 12 principles. You will notice there is nothing about technical practices in there. What is there is technical excellence. How many of you can hold up the work that you do and say it is technically excellent? I am proud of this code. I am proud of these test cases. I am proud of these designs. That's what technical excellence means. But we need technical excellence to enable agility. So when we think about it, and again the picture's not showing nicely here, the attitudes, welcoming change, failing early and learning, feedback loops, continuous delivery, value-driven development, build the right thing, build just enough of the right thing. Don't really efficiently solve the wrong problem. Small value-added slices, learning through discovery, continuous improvement. These are the habits, the attitudes, the mindset of agility. In software engineering, we embedded that into a manifesto with 4 values and 12 principles. And that gives us a nice foundation upon which to build our work. And then there are over 100 practices that we could say fall broadly under the Agile lexicon. Everything from TDD to user stories to story maps to automated builds to incremental and evolutionary design. Those are constantly evolving and changing. Practices should change, should evolve. The underlying values and principles, however, are a solid foundation. They give us those attitudes and habits that make the mindset. Do not get wedded to any practice or set of practices, because new things will emerge. Now, when we look at the branding and packaging of our practices, we see them as Scrum has got 6 ceremonies, 3 roles, and about half a dozen rules. There's not a lot in there. Extreme programming has got more. XP actually tells you some pretty important rules about writing code. One of them being, if you're not doing TDD, you're not doing XP. Another one being, if you're not doing pair programming, you're not doing XP. And various others. Any organization will come up with your own combination. And at the practice level and at the process level, a combination of practices woven together to be effective, I expect you to be continually adapting and evolving. To have a flexible learning mindset. Because when we start at SHU, follow the rules. One of the saddest things for me is if I go into an organization, I work with a team and we teach them the Agile fundamentals. I come back 3 months later and that team is still following those rules exactly as I defined. I failed. If your Agile process has not evolved in the last 3 months, you have failed. You have not learned, because the way that you are working is constantly evolving. We learn new things about each other in the team. We learn new things about the product. We learn new things about the environment, about our customers. We learn new things about our tools and technologies. That constant learning. So it's not about doing, it's about being. It's Agile as a mindset and a culture. We start with the mindset, we start with the values, the principles, we build the habits, and then we put on a set of practices. Unfortunately, in most organizations and most Agile transitions start up there. Here is the Scrum Guide, follow it. Or here is the SWEBOK, the 372 pages. Follow it. No. Please no. Start with the mindset and culture, find a starting set of practices, define a process, and allow it to evolve and adapt based around your organization's and your team's needs. And it doesn't just apply in software engineering. When you're working with your colleagues outside of IT, what are the values and principles of finance? And what does the Agile mindset look like in that space? Well, today there's a whole lot of work being done by the people in the Beyond Budgeting Institute that is looking at exactly those things. What about marketing? What would it mean to have an Agile mindset in the marketing department? I can point you to an Agile marketing manifesto where, inspired by the work that's come out of the information technology area, out of that Agile manifesto, we're looking at that. What about operations? What about education? What about the other areas of the business? Is if your organization And this goes back to what Evan was saying the other day, the theory of constraints. There is a constraining point. You know, if we've got a really good agile delivery process, but our deployment process only allows us to go to production once every 3 months, because we've got an organizational governance checkpoint and change management process that requires 275 different signatures. That's not agile. And our limiting factor is not the rate at which we build software, but the rate at which we get permission to deploy. So how do we apply that mindset to the deployment? But then we can look a little bit wider, or sorry, not wider, deeper, and we can look at it within the disciplines of software development. What about project management, testing, leadership, value management, and the practices of development themselves? Every one of those. So we go back to Shu-Ha-Ri. What does it mean to be Ri as in business analysis in your team? What does it mean to be Ri in software testing in your team? What does it then mean to bring those disciplines together? But to do that, it kind of helps to know what do we need to learn. And here I am going to point to IC Agile. The goal of IC Agile as an organization is to improve the quality of agile learning globally. We do this by defining learning outcomes. We have worked with global experts to identify what does it mean to be an expert in one of these disciplines, to define the learning outcomes and then create a pathway that people can move towards. Now, we don't train people, we accredit training organizations. And those learning outcomes are public domain. They're released under the Creative Commons license, very deliberately. We've gone to the experts and said, what do we need to do to improve the quality of learning? What does it mean for somebody to be Ri in business value management, to be Ri in agile coaching? Help us define those competencies that people need and let us share it with the world. And that's what IC Agile does. We then work with training providers to support and help them make sure that the classes that they teach move people towards competency in your skill sets. We have 5 minutes left for questions. Sure.
Okay, 2 questions actually, but first one first.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. My name is Rizky, and I think the big elephant in the room for me is how to convince the Agile Mindset to CEO. Well, I mean,
there we are.
yeah, because most of the problem is that for that kind of level, they don't really respect the product owner. They are the big boss, and they are the captain of the ship and stuff. And introducing this might be a power struggle for them. And actually, your slides and the way you present it is one of the answer actually. Okay, give a presentation, give a education explanation to them.
Yeah.
But is there anything other than that?
Yeah.
What is it?
Prove value.
Okay. Prove.
Don't tell me this is good, show me it's good.
Show me, because, sorry.
Get permission to do an experiment.
Okay, so first of all, the condition is the leader doesn't have the Agile Mindset yet. Okay.
Yep.
So they cannot do it. I need to do it by myself.
Yep.
Without his without his consent, without his knowing. And I mean, I do the agile stuff in the field.
Yep.
And give it show it to them. And then.
So have the conversation not about, what are we doing, but why are we doing it? And link it to value to the organization. So start with permission to do an experiment.
Okay.
I've learned about this new thing. I would like to try.
Okay.
We believe that if we work this way, we're going to get this outcome. May I get your permission to do an experiment to see? What are the metrics that matter at the organization level?
Okay.
And it's not about how much code we write. It's customer retention, time to market, profitability. Pick one or more of those and have the conversation about, okay, how would we shift this dial? And then we link it back to our agile approach and practices, and we actually go and prove it.
Okay. If you put it that way, I believe they will give consent.
Yeah. And you put it as an experiment.
Yep.
And you define for the experiment, these are the tests. This is the hypothesis. We believe that if we do it this way, we'll reduce time to market. So now we measure what's time to market at the moment. We do the experiment, we measure what was the time to market. Then I can take data and say, now we have a valid conversation about changing the way of working.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. One more question.
Okay, my name is Tino. I have met a situation where Agile is about developments and also adaptation, right? We have a situation where we have something that already works, but we want to try another thing else. But there's two kind of cases. What if we already have the one that is good enough, and we don't want to break things?
Yep.
Like let's just say don't try to fix anything that is not broken.
Yep. Yeah, it's working.
But then we want to try another things.
What is the business outcome that doing that will achieve?
Well, there are reasons, of course, but still it's a gray area. It's do or die.
Then what's the small experiment that will expose whether or not there is a business value to doing it? I haven't heard a compelling reason to change what you're currently doing. So link it back to business outcomes.
Okay.
Think of the things, why does your organization exist? It's about creating happy customers. What creates happy customers? Time to market, quality of product, feature set, perhaps, but probably not. Your customers don't buy features, they buy solutions. For your organization, it's about profitability. So link what you're trying to do to the strategic goals of the organization. Define the small experiment that will prove or disprove, if we did this, will it make it better? And honestly, if you can't link it to an outcome from the business perspective, then